Hi, everybody. It's Kathy and Colleen. We're here to do
Hello.
empowered voices. And we have kind of an interesting conversation today that I hope you guys will hang in and watch us with. So, for those of you that have never been here before, my name is Kathy Munson. This is Colleen Lemma. I am a psychic medium, Reiki master teacher, past life regressionist, energy, constantly energy connected being. I do workshops and classes and all kinds of things. And Empowered Voices is about, two psychic girls gabbing about the universe and personal stories that we both share for all of you. Um, I guess it's funny, I was just saying this to a client that I had today. Empowered Voices for me is always about letting you know that we as holistic people, spiritual people, do a lot of the same things. We put our pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. We get frustrated with the universe just like everybody else. And so that's a lot of what this is about, is sort of just us being real, talking about real stuff, talking about the real universe of how we perceive it and how things come to us, so that you can get to know us a little bit better and just kind of hanging with the homies is kind of how it is. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Colleen so she can introduce herself.
Hmm. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for being here and tuning in to our, I guess, podcast today. My name is Colleen Lemma, and pretty much most of the things that Kathy does, I do as well. Intuitive readings, life coaching, Reiki, hypnotherapy, past life regression, classes, workshops. I think the big difference between Kathy and I is that she's a psychic medium. I don't claim to be that, but I am a professional astrologer. And so there's a big difference. But other than that, we're the same. We're twins. And, again, ditto on what Kathy said about what Empowered Voices is about. It's about it starts with us empowering our voices to share with all of you, but it's really about you also empowering your voices. And it might start with empowering thoughts or empowering belief systems. Eventually, we'd like to have some guests on here so that you can share through your voice some of your empowered situations and circumstances that you've gone through, the evolution and growth you've gone through. And boy, oh boy, the collective has gone through a lot of evolution and growth lately. And
Yes,
so we're going to have that conversation that Kathy was inspired with today, and we'll see where that goes. And hopefully that helps you all in kind of making some particular choices or decisions for your path forward and empowering yourself.
absolutely. So Colleen, let's give a little synopsis as to astrologically what's happening now. We're towards the end of June and going into July, and I know this is going to be an interesting, heavy, in my interpretation, heavy month. July is going to be a heavy month.
Yeah, well, I think June, July, and August are really, pretty profound. Right now in this moment, we're approaching a full moon in Capricorn as we're doing this recording. I think it'll be live before the full moon, but we're also in a retrograde Mercury cycle. And, we do have Mercury retrograde quite often during the year, but I don't know. For me, at least personally, this one seems to have really started before it really started. Just really, Mercury is about our thoughts and our ideas and communications. And when we have a Mercury retrograde, technology goes a little wonky, our travel plans go by the wayside. It's not a great time to try to be grounded and focused with a plan. We have to more go with the flow and allow for redirection and change. And I think this one has really shown itself to be that. It's in the sign of Cancer, and where Mercury is logical, Cancer is more feeling based, intuitive based. So we're kind of having to marry, if you will, the logical left brain and the intuitive right brain at the same time. And I think a lot of memories from the past, because Cancer rules memories, it rules home and family. So a lot of that energy is surrounding this Mercury retrograde. But as you mentioned, going into July, we have what's called a mini grand trine, or what some astrologers call a magic triangle, which sounds really cool and mystical. But that's going to be most of July. It's already starting to form right now in this month of June. But in July, it's all the outer planets, which are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, the very slow moving planets that rule the evolution and growth of the collective of humanity. And they rule our growth as well on a personal level, but they're coming into this configuration that is a positive configuration and going to positively, I think, awaken even more of humanity on an even larger scale. I guess in a nutshell, that's how I would define it. And we also have right at the very end of this month of June and going into July, we're going to have Jupiter, the great benefic, the great planet of blessings, moving out of the sign of Cancer, which is where it's been for a year. And it's been magnifying that emotional, intuitive, empathic realm of Cancer. Now it's going to go into Leo for a year. And Leo is a fire sign, and it's about passion and creative self-expression and leadership and
Hmm.
just really kind of shining your light. So the expansion of Jupiter is going to expand us into shining our light and our creative self-expression even more. So that's kind of in a nutshell what's going on.
That's kind of interesting because a lot of what I had sort of clued Colleen in a little bit to where we were going to be today. Now it makes sense why I have sort of noticed the things that I've noticed. For me, intuition, it's always paying attention. It's always, I get a lot of signs. I get a lot of information through spirit downloaded to me. And what I kept noticing was in the past couple of weeks, it's almost like everyone I talk to, they're like, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Like, how do I get into what you do? How can I do, if I'm enlightened and I'm a healer and I'm a psychic, then how can I get into living that, living that piece? And so it made me think a lot about, actually, I was thinking about Colleen, to be honest. I was
Me?
guided to think about Colleen. I was going like, I don't know how Colleen got on this path. Like, I don't know what made her choose to go down this path and then I was like, that's really interesting. And it made me also kind of reassess my life as to how did I start doing this? Why did I end up here where I am now, which I've been on this path for 25 years, doing readings for people, helping people, teaching Reiki for 24 years, just constantly moving forward. It's not at all. And I'd be the first one to tell you it is not where I thought my life would be at all. And I know some of you out there that know me, I know you know some of the story, but it came around the time that I was going to have my children. Even before I was pregnant with my children, I started on this path of just not being happy with where I was. I was happy to try to get pregnant and try to have my children, and that part I was happy with. But as far as what I was doing for work, I wasn't happy at that time. I just knew that there was so much more that I could feel there was so much more that I was supposed to do here than just this. And I think when I got pregnant, just sort of escalated that thought process. But even before that, I had found a center in my area. They were having a psychic fair. I love psychics. Always, always, always love psychics. I'd go for palm readings. And you name it. If I was there and I had the money to do it, I was getting a reading. So I walked in and I just thought, they had 5 people that were doing readings. And I thought, I'm gonna see them all. Because it was like $20.
Oh, that's fun.
It was like $20 a piece. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I'm thinking to myself, I spend more money doing silly things or on silly things. And maybe some people think that's a silly thing. But for where I was, I just needed something. I needed something. I needed information. And so one of them was already sold out. So I ended up seeing 4. And I'll never forget one of the women in particular, who I still remember. She lives in Australia now. But as I was walking across this room to her, she's like, oh, I'm so glad you came to me. Like she was all excited. And I kind of went, like, why? And she's like, did you have a near death experience? Did you die? And I'm like, not that I'm aware of. And she said, it's like you've just turned over a new leaf. It's like you had died and you came back again. And I was like, huh. And really, to be honest, I don't know what else she told me because that was like the only thing I remember her telling me. And every person I went to, it was all about, you're supposed to be doing what I'm doing, right? Do you know that? Do you know you're supposed to be on the path? Like, that's the one thing that every single person told me. And I thought, that's interesting. And after a while, you're just kind of like, I don't know what that means, but okay, we'll just kind of ponder that for a while. And then I just kept going back there. Like, I really liked the place. I liked the feeling I felt there. So I don't know. I went and did a past life reading there. I went to other workshops there, meditations there. And I just felt like, I don't know. I don't know. Now I look back and say, I felt like I needed to be there. I felt like I was part of what was going to happen there. And long story short, um, I ended up being the first psychic to do readings out of there. And I worked out of there for 13 years
Wow.
of my 25-year path. Um, and I opened the door for those that read, that did readings after me. I mean, they had psychic fairs, but they didn't have hired psychics to work out of there or a consistent psychic to work out of there. And I was very blessed. And the owner, who I will never forget, the place that I worked out of was Abundant Wellness. And unfortunately, it's no longer, it's been sold. And the owner, when I found out it was being sold, I reached out to her and said, I will never forget Abundant Wellness and I'll never forget what you did for me. Because she saw me before I was able to see myself. And it meant a lot. And now it's interesting because now I kind of feel full circle in some ways because I see people and I'm like, you're supposed to be doing this, right? Why are you not doing this? So again, and it's your choice. It's your choice to continue to go on the path. But that's one thing that I feel very strongly about people that come to see me in my space is that if you need help, I will help you in the best way I know how, which is why I'm doing mentoring now. And I know Colleen is somewhat guiding people as well to doing mentoring to be able to help them to get on their path and find themselves and start working with the blockages that whatever you need to release, helping you to get through that path. So I don't know. That's my story. So I guess we'll just listen to hear Colleen's story and see.
Well, when you first said, how did you choose the path? How did you get on your path and choose the path? I instantly thought in my mind, I didn't. The universe did, or my higher soul self did, unbeknownst to my human self, because I was back in the day, and again, synchronicities, because I've been doing my spiritual work for about 25 years as well, like you. But I have a social work degree and a degree in psychology and counseling and substance abuse and all of that stuff. And so I started out working in domestic violence and sexual assault, working at shelters and doing counseling and support groups and things of that nature. Never did it occur to me that I was going to be doing anything like I'm doing now, But again, the universe has plans. And, I worked at a different organization advocating for people with disabilities and helping them start support groups. I worked at a health food store at one point. And I did work at a metaphysical store, and that's probably where, a lot of the growth and redirection on the path came in when I worked at the metaphysical store behind the counter and eventually, took classes there, became one of their readers and had an office and stuff over time. Um, but as far as how it really happened, it almost felt like it was an overnight thing because I don't want to get too into the heaviness of it, but there was a point in my life where there was major redirections that happened, like rug pulled out from under you redirections. And I know a lot of the listeners can relate, right? Where it's you could like lose a job and you don't know why it happened, or a relationship totally blew up and you don't know why it happened, but it just, and these things all happened within like a 6 week period of time. There was three different things. And it really brought me to a place where because I had to relocate, that's when I was introduced to the metaphysical spiritual field. And that's when everything started to open up. So again, I didn't really choose it per se. I mean, yes, on some level, my higher soul self chose it, but I wouldn't in a million years have decided that I wanted to go through those challenges that I went through and be redirected in the way I was. And I will say though, even though I didn't grow up as a teenager or whatever thinking, oh, I've got these psychic intuitive gifts and things like that, I did always have an interest in astrology. I remember, and I was born and raised Catholic, so that was a big no-no, right,
Oh,
for my
yeah.
family. So I would buy these astrology magazines and I would like hide them under my bed and or under the mattress, you know. But yeah, I always had that interest in astrology. And I'll say like for those of you out there that, you know, have certain interests but don't know where to start, I feel like your guides will lead you to it because of my interest in astrology for longer than I can remember. When I started taking astrology classes and studying it, it came very quickly and easily. Like I know I've done that before in previous times, just like you know you've done what you're doing, you know, before in previous times. And it's just like it awakens something within you. It's like the 4-year-old who can play Beethoven on the piano, you know. It's like it just kind of comes very naturally. And other things, not saying everything I do came naturally. Yes, I had to study and take classes and, you know, learn certain things that weren't as natural as astrology. But I think that for those of you out there that are like, well, where do I start? And I don't know if I can do it. And how do I get on the path? I think it, first of all, starts with self-healing and self-awareness, and then move forward with what it is that you're interested in. Like learn about those things that draw your attention because
Right.
somewhere along the line you're gaining tools, you're gaining wisdom, you're gaining gifts, and at some point when divine timing is right, it's all going to fall into place and come together.
There's always something aligning, like with your story, it gets me to think back. I sang professional for many, many years. I did an album, I did tours, that whole, I mean, well, tours in our area anyway. But I mean, I did all that, and that's really what I thought my career was going to be. I really did. And then it ended, and I went into a very dark place, like an incredible dark place. And I truly think that it started there. Like it started with me singing, and then it started with that dark space. It really started to get me to revamp myself, to get myself back to where I needed to be. And really, through a therapist that I had seen, because I'm a big proponent of therapy, um, I remember going to a new therapist, and you had to kind of like tell them new things, tell them about yourself, which always drives me nuts because, like, oh, can't you just read the notes? Um, but I, through telling her that, and she goes, so let me just make sure I'm hearing you correctly. She goes, and this is my memory of what I remember her telling me. So you were singing professional, and then all of a sudden they stopped. It's back when the first recession many, many years ago happened. They stopped hiring live entertainment, and that's when literally what I was doing stopped because they would no longer hire live entertainment. That's when karaoke's became really big and DJs became really big. So that's why that stopped. And I mean, there's a bigger, more personal reason for me as to why it stopped because somebody had said to me once upon a time, one of my mentors when I first started, he said to me, "You mastered it. Like you were done. Like you did what you were supposed to do, so you were done. Now you had to move on to what you were here for,"
I like
which I
that.
thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And I got to, what's the weirdest thing is I got to later on this path got to see the past life that connected to the singing part, which I thought was interesting. But anyway, there's like a lot of really cool things that happen if you're able to look. Maybe in the moment you're not getting it, but then you look back and you're like, oh, I get why all that happened. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of what I think happens is the alignment comes. It's like Colleen said, I don't feel like I chose it either, but I did choose at some point to say I'm going to stay on this path,
Oh,
and I'm
for
going to
sure.
do the very best that I can do and learn the most that I can learn to be who I need to be on this
Yeah.
path. And like Colleen was saying with astrology, it's a lot of like I picked up a tarot deck I remember taking the tarot class because I was told don't sit in front of somebody and not have something in front of you. Hence why I still have a tarot deck in front of me. Um, I might not use it all the time, but it's still there. Um, I remember taking tarot and thinking like tarot is the hardest thing you can pick if it's the first thing you're going to learn,
It
right?
kind of is. Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And then, like, the first time we were practicing readings, the other students in the class were like almost like, and you've never taken this before? And I'm like, no. Let me tell you all, when I came on this path, I met people that are like, have you read such and such? Do you know such and such? Have you seen such and such? And I'm like, no. The only person I knew was Sylvia Brown. That's it. Anybody else? I have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea. Like never read anything, never was into anything. I just knew I liked psychics. I thought they were cool. So Sylvia Brown was pretty much my go-to. She was the one that we'd watch on TV. I thought she was really neat. And like, ooh, I'd love to go see her. And then I did, you know, just things like that. But my mom, she, I mean, my mom and my sisters loved horror movies. So we were always watching horror movies. To me, they were always like kind of freaked me out a little. Like I was always scared, but I never let them know I was scared, that kind of thing. But my mom went to a seance for a friend of hers, and I will tell you, when I was 12 years old, I shut it down. So I didn't remember when I came on this path, I didn't remember things. I didn't remember that I saw spirits when I was little. I didn't remember the experiences that I had when I was little until I came on this path and things started to open up and I went, oh my God, I used to see things. Because one thing I can tell you, I always knew I was never alone as a kid.
Hmm.
I was always talking. My mother's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, I was always playing Barbie dolls or playing with paper dolls. So I'd be like, I'm a Barbie, you know, but I can tell you, I know for a fact I wasn't talking to my Barbie. I know that I wasn't talking to paper dolls. Just, I just knew that I knew things, but it was weird. I thought everybody did the same thing I did. I never thought I was any different than anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fascinating. And to watch people now, I'm like, you used to see people when you were little. Like, the information just comes. Like it just like you with the astrology, it just
Yeah.
comes.
It's interesting, as you're talking and I'm thinking about my past before I was redirected onto my path, right? And I'm thinking, I did see spirits a couple of times before I was redirected. And I don't claim to, like you, I'm not a medium or I don't call myself that. But I remember being in college and living by myself in an apartment. And I remember, when you're kind of in between that waking and sleeping stage, you're just kind of waking up, but you're not fully awake. And I kind of, in that blink of an eye, saw a shadow of a person standing over me that had this like very unique kind of brimmed hat on. And I could tell how tall they were. I couldn't see the facial features or anything like that, but it was just an instant and it was gone. And I was like, whoa, what was that? Right. And I talked to my landlord, who was also my friend. She was maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years older than I was, but she was the landlord. And I told her about it. I said, "Geez, Anne, this is what happened to me this morning, and I saw this man, and he was wearing this hat, and her eyes were getting bigger and bigger, and she said, Colleen, she said, there used to be a college professor that lived in this apartment before you were here, or lived in this house. It was like now separated into a couple of apartments. She said, but he used to live here and he used to always wear this brimmed hat like you're talking about. And of
Ah,
course, he was no longer on the earth plane, right? And that's why her eyes were getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't know what to think about that. I wasn't like, oh, cool, I want to see more. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Really? So yeah, very interesting. And I think that for a lot of your listeners who don't think they have gifts, or our listeners that don't think that they have gifts and talents, I bet if you really took some time to reflect, you'd remember a time where you were a little kid in the sandbox talking to something that wasn't there, an angel, a guide, a fairy, whatever. Or maybe you'd remember seeing grandma or grandpa who was now on the other side in a split second or in a dream, or something like that. So I think that everybody out there needs to give themselves more credit for the gifts and talents that they do
Hmm.
have.
So, another thing that just let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
Because you got me thinking about there's at least two people in the past week that have asked me. And then over the course of time, a lot of people have asked me a question. And one is, I'm going to take them separately. So one of them is, do you think anybody can be a medium? So we'll start there.
I think anyone can be whatever they want. So yeah.
And then, and I'll answer that again too. I'll answer that too. The other question is, I'm trying to think how she put it. Something like, well, I couldn't be a psychic like you because I wouldn't work with like you. Do you think everybody could do readings for people?
I think everybody could do readings for people if they find what works for them. For some, it might be astrology. For others, it might be numerology. For some, it might be tarot or divination. For some, it might be rune stones. For some, it might be mediumship. There's so many different tools out there
Right.
that we can use. And
Right.
we all are intuitive, even those people that don't think they're intuitive are intuitive. It's the gut
Absolutely. Like
feeling, the gut instinct.
how many of us have, and how many of you out there have literally been driving home from somewhere or driving to somewhere, and you're like, I'm not going to take the highway. I'm going to go back roads. I'm going to go back roads. And then you find out like there was a major accident on the highway or some kind of diversion or construction or something on the highway. Like
Hmm.
that's intuition. Might be a
Absolutely.
little bit of a different intuition, but if you can do that, you certainly can go into doing readings for people. I
Yeah.
have seen some, doing events. I love to walk around events, like especially the bigger ones that used to be back in the day, and just kind of standing and watching people, do what we do. I love watching people do what I do because they don't do what I do. They do it differently because we know that Colleen isn't the same as me. I don't read the same way Colleen reads, but that doesn't mean I'm not even big on she's better, he's not, it doesn't matter. Everybody has their own niche and their
Right.
own connection to people. Um, and I've always known that. But, I used to love to watch them. I've seen some amazing tarot readers who know the tarot deck and can read the tarot deck. And then I've seen amazing intuitives do tarot readings
Right.
because there is a difference.
There is a difference.
And
Yes.
it's amazing to watch them. And one is just as brilliant as the other. That's the cool thing. Same
Yeah.
thing with reading palms. Our palms are our palms. They're not going to change, but one reader would pick up on this, or
Yeah.
this, and another reader would pick up on something totally different.
And it's the
It's
same
your
with
niche.
astrology because astrology is symbols and planets. And yes, there's key words for all of these things in astrology, but also if you use your intuition, like you know a little bit about, the key words for these things, and then you use your intuition. And that's, again, you could just be the astrologer and it doesn't, I'm not saying one's better than the other, but the astrologer that has like the book knowledge versus the astrologer that uses the intuition, the tarot person that knows all the key words and stuff for all those cards, and then
Right.
the person that also just like looks at the imagery and lets their imagination run wild.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting because I took one of Colleen's astrology classes. I took the first one, and I literally knew in that moment it is not my thing. There's so much information that you need to know and remember, and that's not my forte. I'll be honest, that's not my forte.
Mhm.
But man, I give her so much credit for that. And I literally said to her face, I'm like, I'm not taking the second one. No offense. I will guide people because I think she's brilliant and she makes it very understandable. So I will say that she made it very clear. I could understand it. I understood it when I was with her, and I thought, I'm going to leave here. I'm not going to remember all of this because, again, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I give her so
Yeah.
much credit for that. But again, it just goes to show, like, if you stay in your lane, if you stay in your niche. But do I talk to people about astrology? I'll be like, what's your sign? Like, I've asked people what their sign is. And
Hmm.
intuitively, I get things intuitively for them. Just
Right.
like it's a big one for birthday year to birthday year. That's a big one for me. It's like, when's your birthday? Because your birthday must be coming because I can feel the escalation as to where spirit is guiding you. But again, it's intuitive for me. That's just who
Right.
I am. I'm intuitive. Like
Right.
reading a book isn't going to do diddly squat for me, to be honest. I'm going to
Right.
read the book and then I'm just going to interpret it the way that I want to interpret it anyway
Yeah.
because it's intuitive. Because it's intuitive, and that's how I teach. I teach how to build this connection, and again, I know Colleen does some of that also. So
Yeah.
I'll just say that she's got the best of both worlds is kind of what I feel about Colleen. And it doesn't mean that I have no knowledge. It doesn't mean that she has more knowledge than I do. That's not what it's about. It's staying in that place that feels comfortable for you, still
Right.
growing, still
Right.
able to grow and evolve, not being stuck
Right.
there. But
Right.
yeah, it's just a different process. And that's a lot of what can happen for all of you
Yeah.
is just finding like and let me tell you, when I came on this path, I look at all of you now, newbies that are coming on the path, and I so get it. Like, I don't I don't know why I got that. And it's like, it's okay, you did good, you did good, you did good. You know what I mean? So it's like it's literally getting
Yeah.
out of here
Yeah.
and just letting it flow.
Yeah. And I want to pivot just a little bit, and because we're, trying to support people in getting on their path, or how do I get on the path, and I want to say this is that whatever job, career thing you're doing right now, don't look at it like, oh, this is exhausting. Oh, this isn't for me. I mean, those things might be true to some extent, but wherever you're at right now, whatever jobs you've had in the past, whatever careers you've done, it's all giving you some sort of knowledge and gift that's
Absolutely.
going to help you when you get on your spiritual path, when you decide to move forward with your evolution and growth. When I did domestic violence, and worked in those shelters, I learned about counseling and interacting with people. When I worked at the health food store, I learned a lot about essential oils and flower essences and supplements for health and, all these different things. All of the things that I learned in all the places that I've been, even though it was draining to work in certain areas, certain careers, it was frustrating. I knew it wasn't my path, spiritually speaking, but they gave me gifts and talents and abilities that I now am able to use in what I'm
Absolutely.
doing now. So I wanted to make that point because some people are like, well, I've been doing this for 30, 40 years and I'm not on my spiritual path. You have been on a spiritual path. You're just gaining
Absolutely.
information and gifts and talents that are going to aid you as you move.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I was a medical receptionist.
Yeah.
That was the closest to healing I could get because I didn't know I was a healer. I didn't know that's what I was going to be doing that I do now in some respectful form because I'll just put it that way. But I also learned in the last job that I had how to build protection for myself because it was the most negative place I ever worked.
Yeah.
So it taught
Yeah.
me how to protect myself, who to call in, how do I work with that? Because I was
Right.
on this path and working at the same time. So it's
Hmm.
everything leads you to where you need to be. And it
Yeah.
could just be like a lot of people, well, how did corporate do that? Like if you're coming from corporate to coming to a holistic healer or again whatever your path is. You don't think you learned how to protect yourself? You don't think you learned how to speak up for yourself?
And you learn how to discern what a person's thoughts really are compared to their, what they're saying, what they're speaking. You watch their body language, you learn a lot.
And maybe it was like my first, which was the singing. Maybe you needed to go that route to finish, to
Hmm.
finish something from a past life before you could then go on to where you needed to be.
Right.
So everything ties in. There is such a huge divine cycle that kind of leads us all to wherever we're meant to be and
Hmm.
whatever we're meant to do. And one thing I know that's very clear for me is my voice is what I'm here for, whatever that's supposed to be. And we're always evolving,
Yeah.
so where we are now in this universe, it's all new to all of us. There have been friends like Colleen that are on this path that have been doubting, like, am I meant to stay here? Am I meant to
Right.
like go back and get a real job? And of course, I'm just gonna say I think that and I go, oh, but but it has gone through my mind. Like, are you trying to tell me to get off the path and just like go back to work? You know, Not that I don't work on this path,
Right.
but yeah, I know from a lot of people that I've talked to, a lot of friends that I've talked to, they've thought of that. So we're all thinking the exact same way that you're all thinking, constantly trying to make sure that we are doing what we're here for.
Hmm.
And so it may be a little unclear at this point in our universe, but we're going to figure it out. And wherever you are today in this moment, if you're watching this video, good for you. And thank you for that. But you're right where you're meant to be. So if you lost a job and you're looking for a job, if you don't like the job you're in and you're looking for a job, if you love the job you're in and you just want to excel in that, you're all where you're meant to be for today. There's
Yeah.
always a reason. And even if we feel like, well, I should have made some phone calls and I should have done this and I should have done that and I should have done that. First of all, stop shooting on yourself. Second of all, if you're having doubts or you're being a little lackadaisical, it's a lot of what's in the energy right now. So we'll say that.
Hmm.
But you'll get there when you're meant to get there and you'll do it when you're meant to do it.
And if you're feeling a little lost and confused, realize that we're in a birthing cycle this year, right? So we are in the throes like a woman who's pregnant that's starting to have the labor pains and give birth. When you're giving birth, you don't know how long it's going to take to birth the new you, birth the new life, birth the new path. You don't know what that path's going to look like. You don't know what the baby's going to look like, right?
Right.
So know that we're in that beginning phase. So don't be hard on yourself about where you're at in this moment or feeling lost and confused or whatever it might be that you're going through.
Right. And remember, if you are feeling that, you're manifesting it. Because if you keep that energy going and you keep the frustration going and you keep all of that fear, that because that's really
Mhm.
what it all bases down to is fear. If you keep that going, you're only ever going to be where you are now.
And
And
know that all of us that are on the path, we go through the same things.
oh, amen.
I was just on my little morning walk this morning and really putting forth some positive affirmations because I'm wearing sunglasses because of a health thing that I've got going on with my eyes, and it's been quite a while. So, yes, I get frustrated, I get in despair, I get negative, I get like, is this ever going to clear up? So I really had to like focus on redirecting the energy for myself in the most positive way through affirmations for my half-hour walk. I just kept repeating different things over and over again, so know that I shouldn't speak for Kathy, but I will, that Kathy and I are in the same boat as you all. We get to the same place sometimes.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's all going to make sense eventually. And that's a lot of what we learn. We always are able to get through it. That's why we're here today, because we've gotten through something in the past. I mean, I got through that dark night of the soul. That's what I always think of after my singing career ended. My voice was taken away. That's what the issue was. That's why I went into a severe depression, because my voice was taken away. I felt like my voice was taken away. When I sang, I had a voice and people would listen. When I didn't sing, I felt like no one was hearing me, no one was listening. And so a lot of what we go through, it's all getting us to where we need to be. And remember that every moment is a learning lesson. And so for today, right now, I'm grateful and thankful for all of you, those of you that are watching the video today, and because you're allowing us to have a voice. And hopefully we're helping you to have a voice because that's what empowered voices are all about, is helping you to find yours. So yeah, so I'm going to put a pin in it there. I thank you all so, so much for coming and being with us today. Great topic of discussion. It's got me rethinking, almost kind of gives you a revamp, doesn't it, in some ways, to go back and think about where
Hmm.
we came from,
Yeah.
the times that we had back then, how confused and I don't know what I'm doing. I'll just keep going because I remember saying that. She thinks I'm this, so I'm just going to keep going. And look at me now, right? Look at us now. Look what we're doing now. So blessings, blessings, blessings always. So I hope from now until the time Empowered Voices comes out again, you come back and see us again. And if you need us in between, you can clearly reach out to us through Empowered Voices. Intuitivecat@gmail.com is my email. Cat spelled with a K. Um, my website is intuitivecat.com. So yeah, you can always reach out and find us some way. I have my Facebook page, all that stuff. Colleen, you want to share yours?
Sure. You can reach me through my email at Colleen at sacredsoulempowerment.com. And my website is just my name, so simple to remember, colleenlema.com. So, yes, we're here for you. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening and coming in to see what we had to say. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we send you lots of love and light.
Absolutely. We'll see you again next month. Be well, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.